When tragic stories make headlines, especially involving children or vulnerable victims, people want answers. And one question that keeps coming up again and again in our comment section is, I don't understand how this is domestic violence, especially when a situation doesn't look like the typical relationship or household dynamic. In this Survivor to Survivor episode, we're answering that question directly because it's an important one to have. This is Survivor to Survivor.
Survivor to Survivor, break the silence. In the depths of silence, a voice emerges. A voice that says, "You are not alone." Welcome to Survivor, where strength rises through shared stories, where pain transforms into resilience, where survivors connect and empower each other. Your story matters. Your voice matters. You matter. Join the movement. Subscribe now. Welcome to Survivor to Survivor.
All right, so welcome back. We got an email in this week that the subject said, why are these cases being called domestic violence? So I wanted to take the time to respond to that, especially since, like I said in the beginning, we're seeing a lot of that in our comment sections. So let's just get into it. It says, hi, Tara. I've been following your post and I've noticed something I'm trying to understand. Some of these cases you share, like human trafficking situations or cases where a child is taken by someone outside of the family, doesn't seem like it's domestic violence to me. For example, the recent case with the little girl and the FedEx worker. That doesn't seem like a domestic situation. I'm trying to be respectful about it. I just genuinely don't understand why these are being connected to domestic violence. Can you explain how these things are related? I'm just trying to understand. Thank you. Well, it's a fair question, okay? And I'm glad she asked it because what you're noticing is real. Not every case we talk about is strictly domestic violence in a traditional sense of like partner and household relationship. But here's what's important to understand. At Break the Silence, we're not just talking about a category. We're talking about patterns of power and control and violence, especially against women and children. And those patterns don't exist in like separate little boxes. They're more like a spider web, interconnected, overlapping, and feeding into one another. And here's what that looks like in real life scenarios, okay? Many child predators are not just offenders in these isolated type of cases. They are often abusive in other areas in their lives, including their own relationships, whether it's with partners or parents. Many people who abuse children are also abusive towards their partners. Many victims of trafficking are not just randomly taken. They're groomed and manipulated and exploited by someone they know and trust. And many children who are targeted by traffickers are already vulnerable, often coming from environments where abuse and neglect and instability already existed in their lives. So while a case may not start inside the home, it is often connected to the dynamics of what is going on in the home. And sometimes it does start in the home and we're not seeing it. Those dynamics play out. They don't publicize those in public forums a lot of times. That's why these issues overlap. Domestic violence, child abuse, human trafficking, sexual exploitation, grooming, predatory behavior. They are different expressions of the same core issue. Someone with power exploiting someone who is more vulnerable. So when we share cases like Athena's or trafficking cases, we're not saying that this is technically domestic violence. What we're saying is this is a part of the same web of violence and control, vulnerability that domestic violence exists within. Because survivors don't experience abuse neat and in labeled categories. Their stories often move across that spider web. And if we only talk about abuse when it fits that one narrow definition, we miss the bigger picture and the warning signs that come with it. Understanding that web helps people recognize patterns early, see connections they might have missed, and better protect those who are the most vulnerable. So in cases like Athena's, what may have been happening in his own personal relationships could have, had seen the red flags within those relationships and possibly stopped what had happened to Athena. That's what we are expressing. This is more of a complex pattern. Even cases like mass shootings, 99% of the time have a domestic violence origin with them. So these are important conversations to have, and they can be very complex. And your perspective does matter here. When you think about abuse as something interconnected rather than separate little categories, then we can see the bigger picture. So, if you're a survivor out there of any of these, what do you wish people saw more clearly? Because we want to hear your voice and help other people see the bigger full picture in these cases. Survivor to Survivor exists because people are willing to be honest with these kinds of questions, and even the ones that feel complicated. So if you'd like to submit your question, email us at podcast@breakthesilencedv.org. You'll remain anonymous. And understanding these connections are important. By supporting survivors across all forms of abuse, it can create a real impact. You can help us through the Walmart's Spark Good Roundup program. Visit www.walmart.com/sparkgood. Search for Break the Silence Against Domestic Violence as your preferred 501c3 charity and round up your purchases to support survivors and their families. Every small action helps protect lives. And we'll see you next time on Survivor to Survivor.